Greetings again! We are the third group of STEM Euler and we are going to present to you another common Filipino game known as Dampa. Dampa is a Filipino common game played in every rural areas. The game is played with the use of rubber bands known as lastico in the vernacular. Dampa involves moving the rubber bands with the air produced by hitting the ground with their hands.
For the origin of the game Dampa, Dampa was first played by Cebuanos with the use of rubber bands or lasticos. Many years later, the game became one of the most played traditional games by Filipino children that truly completed their childhood.
The objective of the game is to move the rubber band beyond the line through the act of producing air from a dome-shaped pumps. In other words, the player must be in control in producing an amount of air in order for the rubber bands to move forward.
The Dampa game also allows the players to develop their arm strength and skill to produce an amount of air with their palms. To produce the compressed air, the hand should be put together, palms down, and arc like a dome before hitting the ground.
It also aims to develop patience, control of one's emotion, courtesy regarding others' mistakes, and courage to move the rubber bands beyond the line.
Dampa can be played on any flat surface by a minimum of 2 players. The sequence will be determined through palagunting or bato-bato pick or jack and poy.
If there are 3 or more players, players will determine the sequence to dampa the rubber band through hurumpiang or paolo or sikop.
Dampa is usually played outdoors as it requires an open space of about 5 meters or more. During the game, players take turns to move an odd number of rubber bands beyond the designated line.
When successful, he wins the round and takes the rubber bands that went beyond the line as his loot. But if the player moves an even number of rubber bands beyond the line, his opponent takes those rubber bands.
In order to play Dampa, one of the materials needed are rubber bands or in Filipino, lasticos. These rubber band or lasticos are piled one over the other on the ground as both hands are put together to form a dome-like shape and be able to produce air in order to move the rubber bands in odd or even numbers. These rubber bands are lightweight and can come in various colors.
When we're playing in a flat surface, we also use chalk or charcoal or any writing material that we can use to put a line or a mark in our desired area or in our starting line.
Players will determine the sequence to dampa the rubber band through palagunting or jack and poy and hurumpiang if there are 3 or more players. Players will alternately dampa the piled rubber bands on the ground. Players should not clip the rubber band while doing the dampa so as not to forfeit the turn to play.
First, the player should aim to dislodge an odd number of rubber bands from the heap. He loses a turn if he displaces an even number of bands. The player's next aim is to move an odd number of rubber bands beyond the designated line. When successful, he wins the round and takes the rubber bands that went beyond the line as his loot. But if the player moves an even number of rubber bands beyond the line, his opponent takes those rubber bands.
Now let's talk about the values of this game. First is the patience in waiting for their turn to play. In this game, players take turns, and the amount of time you have to wait depends on the number of players. Therefore, this game improves patience of the players. Next is the courtesy regarding other players' mistakes. It is not unusual to create mistakes in games, and this game is no different. We tend to laugh at others as soon as they create mistakes, but in this game, mistakes by one give advantage to others which results to gratitude and appreciation instead of humiliation.
So the next value of this game is that it promotes camaraderie since it is a friendly game. Thus, it improves the social skills of each player. And lastly, it's a good game to promote good and healthy competition among the players since everyone has the chance to play the game.
You as a kid might have seen other kids play this game, or you have already played this kind of game. a game that only involves rubber bands or elasticos and your very own hands. A game called Dampa. There are different styles or hand forms that can be used while playing the game. First is the normal one, second is the -1, third is the -2, fourth is the -3.
So the next style to form your both hands in playing Dampa is Tangke, in which both of your hands will go into form a tank-like hand. Next one is Pamaypay, and the last one is Kuweba. So that is Dampa, a larong Pinoy which promotes physical or exercise. Next is social or camaraderie, and of course emotional, which is Dampa is a very fun game, and of course it exercises our characters. So that is our larong Pinoy, Dampa.